Have at me, bro. This is Omega 99 Nemesis once again as Lux Tenebris in my Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin lore play. This is the 6th episode, and as you can see, I finally remembered to start doing bows at the beginning of each episode. Let's see how long this lasts. Alright, so it turns out as Midas I got a wee bit ahead by completing my dialogue with Xiaohua. With that in mind, I'm now going to skim through the dialogue with Xiaohua as this was in my previous episode. I'm also going to show you how to get into 2 specific covenants and get the associated achievements. However, one of the covenants I would recommend not going for until you're very confident in your abilities in-game. Alright, so I'm actually going to pick up the Homeward Bones with this character now. As, well, I didn't pick them up as Lux apparently. Or did I? Yeah, I didn't. Alright. Now this is Victor's Stone. With it you can join the Covenant of Champions, which makes enemies stronger, deal more damage, and they fight with refined AI, meaning they will run away if they're at a disadvantage, and they will actually use tactics rather than shamble over to you trying to hit you at random, you know. They'll actually coordinate, which is an aspect I'm not fond of. Don't join, it's not a covenant for the meek. Oh, by the way, you won't be able to do co-op of any kind if you join this covenant, so... Oh, but other players can still invade you, so, you know, just very lovely, isn't it? Granted, this is for the core Dark Souls purist players, basically. And if anything I resent, it's being purist. Now then, while I get some of my items sorted through, like getting my item layout as appropriate, I'm gonna go talk to Salden, who is able to initiate you in the Covenant I recommend every character be started in at the beginning of the game for basic benefits. Even if it isn't one that sees a lot of use, less than it should, it's still good to have.
You have that distinct scent, the smell of irreversible fate. This is Majula. It is a kind of settlement, a place where life is almost normal. And in Drang Lake these days, there are very few places like that. I am Salden, and like you, I lost everything, and now I'm here. You probably heard that it was possible to break the curse here. Well, that's not true at all. There's nothing here for you, me, or anybody. Do you know much about souls? Even I'm not certain, but I'm told that the soul is the essence of life itself. Anything living, sentient or no, supposedly has one. What we call the curse is traceable to the soul. Do you see what that means? To be alive, to walk this earth. That's the real curse, right there. We undead will never die. And that's quite a predicament, really. 4 beings in this land with giant souls. And wherever you go from here, you'll sooner or later come up against them. Each has a powerful soul and a terrible curse. If that frightens you, then you ought to just give up right now, like I have. Do you ever cry out for help? The journey of an undead is long and treacherous. You'll face invaders from other worlds at every turn. If you need help, why not proclaim faith in the Blue Sentinels? When you face danger, the Blue Sentinels will come to your aid. Protection is yours, if you wish. You need only accept their kind embrace.
Alright, so this covenant effectively allows you to receive aid from other players of a certain covenant if you're ever invaded. There are limitations, however, and it's not as useful as you would like.
Wise decision. People are weak, but the Blue Sentinels watch over us in their benevolence. Let the Sentinels cradle you in their embrace. Do you feel lonely here? It suits me just fine, as I have nothing left anyway. It will grow on you, this place. Give it some time. Do you see the way beyond the bonfire? That will take you to the forest of the giants. There was once a great fort, but little of it remains. You may just find something there that will be of use on your journey. But don't venture too far inside, or you might not come back. Hade's Tower of Flame lies beyond the far gate. In the cathedral, the Apostles of Blue gather. But the road leading there is perilous. The gate is rigged with some contraption. But how it works, I just don't know. Have you seen that pit, that gaping hole in the earth? I don't know what it's like down below, but I wouldn't suggest trying to find out. Besides, you'll never make it down there, not without a ladder of some sort. The flame you see there is a bonfire. They exist all across the land, beacons to we undead. If you are tired, try resting beside the flame. The flame heals us. Long ago, a woman called a firekeeper watched over each bonfire. She kept the flame lit and guarded it from those who would extinguish it. I wonder where the firekeepers went. Did you notice any letters on the ground on the way here? These are messages that have jumped the fissures between worlds. In Drang Lake, the flow of time is convoluted. Things shift and waver, twist and turn. Poignant wishes, dashed dreams, the messages convey our very inner thoughts. If your will to soldier on falters, try leaving a message. Somebody out there is sure to listen. You may notice symbols that appear upon the ground. These are summon signatures. They call upon spirits from other worlds through the schisms in time. If you fear hollows, find summon signatures to call upon spirits to help you. Do you see the way beyond the bonfire? That will take you to the forest.
Alright, so after he's done talking, the Soldan tells you a bit about what's going on and how time is convoluted, which explains the co-op mechanics of the game. Anyways, I'm still listening to this guy because he'd been talking for so long I wasn't sure if we'd finished. But yeah, so alright, so after getting that into that covenant, that'll come in handy if you're invaded, because hopefully somebody can be summoned to help you. Assuming you're online, of course. Now, I'm actually going to be adjusting my item format, as well as equipping the right ring. The blue ring offers little other than the fact that it increases your max health slightly. But it is a good item for early in the game. It doesn't need to be equipped to get the help you need for invasions, but it does help by giving you a boost in health, especially as it weighs very little. Now I'm going to resolve my dialogue with the Herald, as I've already gone over this with Midas as well. Anyway, so as I mentioned, the Emerald Herald levels your character up and upgrades your Estus, while also providing a few very vague, lore-centric ramblings after certain bosses have been beaten and characters introduced, as the character part I'm told about. Yeah, see, now I'm skipping her dialogue, because I know I've already done this with Midas. Anyways, after we do this, after I'm done getting even with her dialogue, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go basically go over the item descriptions I've recently happened upon, which aren't that many. They're not. I don't think it'll be as long as before. It's partially why I did it earlier, to limit this down some. This might carry over to the next episode, but no further than that, I'd reckon. But, you know, the lore-centric talk won't last too long, so let's just get this dealt with, shall we? Estus Flask, a green glass bottle of unknown make. Fill it with Estus at a bonfire and drink from it to restore HP. The nature of the link between the Estus flasks and the bonfires that illuminate the world of the undead is entirely unknown. But that is of little concern, for any undead knows the value of these precious flasks. On a gameplay note, this restores a lot of HP quickly, but has a startup that takes a few seconds and forces you to stop moving. Whereas the life gems allows you to heal while moving at a crawl. However, it should also be noted that these are infinitely replenishable at bonfires and may be preferable to using the limited life gems. On a lore note, there's nothing I can say that I can think of. If there's anything that comes back to me, I'll bring it up in a later video at some point. I will backtrack later to the Amber Herb. Divine Blessing. Holy water endowed with a divine blessing. Cures status effects and fully restores HP. Water blessed by an ancient goddess. Her name is long forgotten and the Magic Academy of Melfia denies her even her existence. In any age, there are those who refuse to see reason, and it is their meddling that distorts the truth. What we can take from this on a gameplay is that it'll fully heal you and cure effects like bleeding and such. Now, what it means in lore is that in Dark Souls 1, this was made by Guinevere, the goddess of sunlight. And because of this, she was a very benevolent deity from what I've heard. She left Lordran after the cruelty of Gwyn and Gwendolyn took place, as well as the decayed place of the gods, as many deities like her left as well. She became wife to flame god Flan, and I'm going to have theories introduced later. Now, according to this, the mages of Melfia denied her existence, and what I would have to suggest is that in Dark Souls 1, we've seen sorcerers like Logan portray an atheistic view. They didn't believe in deities, just beings of great power. Mayhaps Melfia sought to circumvent Guinevere's godhood with their own sorceries, and simply because they refused to acknowledge her, they sought to destroy her, or by whatever extent Melfia had a personal stake in making sure no one believed in Guinevere. Either way, Guinevere is no longer a direct factor in any equation by their meddling. With that in mind, it makes you wonder if there's any distinct connection between the Archdrake sect, who I will talk about later, and this school for their unreasonable meddling. But that'll come later. Let's move on to the next item, shall we? Next, the Homeward Bone. A white ashen bone, returned to last bonfire rested at. Bonfires burn on the bones of undead, and this bone, belonging to one whose journey was cut short, has the power to travel to bonfires, as if it yearns to resume its futile quest. On a gameplay perspective, using this anywhere in the game will return you to the last bonfire you rested at. Now, lighting a bonfire doesn't do anything for this effect. You have to actually sit down and rest there. Now, from a lore perspective, Homeward Bones are made from the bones of an undead who was effectively defeated. This is an interesting notion, as undeads who are defeated become hollow, but don't actually stay dead. But personally, my theory on the undead is that, yes, they become hollow, but only after they become hollow they can do a sort of parody of death, as their corpses are truly broken at this point, as are their minds, and because of this, they don't return from the dead. Which is why we'll see hollows that have fully hollowed, like in Dark Souls 1, when the Crestfallen Warrior goes hollow, we kill him, we never see him again. As by going hollow, they stay dead forever and can harm no one. Anyways, and likewise, Now, could this possibly be the bone of one of the undead from Dark Souls 1 who lit the primal fire, the first flame? I'm gonna say with no. Although it's an ashen bone, it could just be very old and be crusted with ashes. I think this is an undead who, as I stated, his quest was cut short. That's why it yearns to resume its futile quest, as the bone is somewhat like the soul. As the undead no longer has a soul, its bone is what is the key attribute of it. Anyways, though this is also left to some conjecture. Let me know if you agree or disagree, because this one is of interest to me. Alright then, onward forward. And now the black sheep of these items, and the last of the episode, the Dark Sign. An accursed mark, the Dark Sign induces death, returning the player to the last bonfire rested at the cost of all souls held. Do what you must to gather the pieces, scraping them into some semblance of a whole, before the will to do so fades. From a gameplay perspective, this functions almost identically to the Homeward Bone, only it consumes all your souls to do so. What this means is, unlike normal death, where you'll leave a blood stain and souls to collect, you will not do so here. You may or may not leave a blood stain, I don't know, but you will not get your souls back. I also do not know whether or not the life protection ring has any effect on this, as it is much better to just rely upon the Homeward Bone in this sense. Now, on a lore sense, this item is of interest to me. For starters, we see it on the shoulder of our character on the back, and even in the in-game model if you take off his shirt. But I don't think this is how it normally is, as in Dark Souls 1, the hollow featured at the beginning had one on his skull somewhere, like maybe the eye socket even. So with that in mind, my opinion is this mark can appear anywhere on your figure. For example, in Lux Tenebris' case, it's featured on his chest, and in Midas' case, it's featured in an unspecified region I've not bothered to think of. However, another thing to think is that I think the Dark Sign serves as sort of a purse for your character, an interdimensional backpack, basically. Because you can see all the items on my character, these alone would weigh a person down, and considering that you're carrying numerous pieces of armor that don't weigh you down unless you equip it, I'm thinking your gear, your weapons, and items you're not automatically using are in the Dark Sign as a sort of containment. As well, otherwise, if you were carrying a bunch of ultra greatswords, shields, and so forth, your character would be crushed under that much weight. So my thinking is the Dark Sign contains souls, and is where your soul memory resides, but also items, as souls were used to make these items, because you expend souls to upgrade weaponry and such. So, aside from containing being like a backpack, and explaining that big question mark for me, it also grows as you do. So as your character becomes more powerful, you can argue the Dark Sign itself grows stronger. By attaining a myriad of souls, as the Herald urges us to, the sign itself becomes less like a small burning circle and more like a big burning void on your shoulder. So I don't know, that's all conjecture. Likewise, it represents the warning, do what you must to gather the pieces, scraping them into some semblance of a whole before the will to do so fades. I think this represents your chosen undead or bearer of the curse's overall ambition, what you're intending to do as an undead. Lux's is to remember the wife he lost, as well as who and what he was. You know, he's trying to recover his lost memories of the people who mattered most to him, or rather, the person who mattered most, as well as to find redemption in the fear that he may have been the one to silence her life. Midas's, on the other hand, is both more simple and complicated, and though I have an idea of what it is, it's hard for me to say, and so I will choose instead to elaborate later on for Midas's purpose in this. Alright, so this is the last item of this episode. We'll continue on the next episode and hopefully get them squared away. Alright, this concludes episode 6 of my lore play. This is Omega 99 Nemesis signing out. Have a good day, folks.